I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. Big gains this week for pro-lifers. We'll look at what it may mean for the country. Plus, we go into the deep to discuss Veterans Day.
It's a historic tradition in our country to recognize the sacrifices of our veterans.
And an historic Spanish cathedral prepares for the Pope's visit. Well, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. Francesca Maxime has the night off. Well, late today, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi said she would try to keep her job as leader of the Democrats, but now as minority leader. This after the GOP's historic win on Tuesday with a series of victories that have changed the political landscape in Washington. Pelosi, a Catholic who is also in favor of abortion rights, finds herself facing off against a majority party with a growing number of elected representatives who are pro-life, and many of those are women. Tuesday's election saw big gains for Republicans on Capitol Hill, the GOP capturing a majority in the House of Representatives and picking up seats in the Senate. But pro-life groups like the Susan B. Anthony list are celebrating for a different reason.
It was a great night in that Susan B. Anthony list had a 91% wins, and our counterpart, Emily's list, had a 38%. I just couldn't be happier that we have so many more pro-life women in Congress.
Susan B. Anthony list endorsed 90 pro-life candidates. 61 went home victorious on Tuesday. Among them, Kelly Ayotte of New Hampshire, who will become the only pro-life woman serving in the U.S. Senate. Earlier this year, Ayotte described her views on abortion this way.
I am pro-life. I think abortion should be very limited. I would support an exception for the life of the mother, rape or incest, but we should do everything in our power to prevent abortions in this country. In the House, at least 4 new pro-life women won their races. They are Jamie Herrera in Washington's 3rd District, Diane Black in Tennessee's 6th District, Kristi Noem in South Dakota, and Sandy Adams in Florida 24. And then there's Renee Elmers in North Carolina. Her race against incumbent Democrat Bob Etheridge has yet to be decided. Elmers leads, but by less than 1%, and it looks like a recount is coming.
And what I find amazing about those women is they will speak out courageously on behalf of life, and they did so in their campaign, and they will continue to do so.
But there were several pro-life women who lost in some very high-profile races. There was Christine O'Donnell in Delaware, Sharon Engel in Nevada, and Carly Fiorina in California. Fiorina lost to incumbent Democratic Senator Barbara Boxer, who is staunchly pro-choice.
We had no woman's pro-life voice in the United States Senate, so we were very hopeful, but again, our overall record was just astonishingly successful.
I contacted the group Emily's List, which works to get pro-choice Democrats elected, to get their side of the story, but they did not respond to my request for an interview. On their website, though, the group congratulated its slate of candidates who won. Speaking about Senator Boxer, Emily's List President Stephanie Chirac said, quote, "The voters of California have chosen to send Senator Boxer back to Washington to continue fighting for them, and we couldn't agree more with their decision." Senator Boxer was first elected in 1992, which was called the Year of the Woman because of the high number of women sent to Washington that year. With all the new pro-life candidates elected in 2010, does that make this the Year of the Pro-Life Woman?
Well, I think it is true, and I think there's a new role model now for young women around this country that want to be in leadership position, but they are pro-life. They can see now that women elected to the highest offices in the land are proudly pro-life. They don't run away from their position, and yet they are successful in that political arena.
Well, there you go, and the story isn't over yet. There are still 6 races that have to be called in the House. But so far, the Susan B. Anthony list says that 78% of the pro-life candidates they endorsed won overall. Well, stay with us. We have much more Currents coming up straight ahead. When we come back, an old friend gets a new look. That and the rest of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure. Coming up in just a bit, an historic day for an historic Spanish cathedral as it prepares for a visit from the Pope. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki has promised that the government will do all it can to protect Christians in his country. Al-Maliki met with bishops and Christian leaders from other denominations yesterday, a day after going to a hospital in Baghdad to visit victims from the weekend's deadly attack on an Iraqi cathedral. Tomorrow he'll visit the cathedral to honor the victims. 58 people were killed in the attack on Sunday. Well, from Belgium, the Catholic primate of the country, whose statements in a book provoked some sharp outcry, says the press misrepresented him. Archbishop André-Joseph Léonard of Brussels says he did not intend to shock anyone. Léonard says that while he did say that AIDS could be looked at as inherent justice for risky sexual behavior, he did not call it a form of divine punishment as he's been accused. He also denied calling homosexuality an illness and not normal. Léonard has also been accused of saying elderly priests charged with sexual abuse should be spared from justice. He clarified that as well, saying that all cases should be turned over to civil authorities. Well, turning now to this country, the ACLU is suing New Jersey Transit for firing an employee who burned the Quran outside the planned Islamic Center near Ground Zero. The ACLU argues that New Jersey Transit fired the employee for exercising his free speech. The Council on American Islamic Relations added that it did not support the firing, but it did object to the employee's actions. Well, here in Brooklyn, people of different faiths came together last night to address another tough topic, health care, and how new regulations will affect them.
We are here representing Brooklyn Congregations United, 22 faith communities that stretch from Flatbush down here to Bay Ridge. We are very serious about healthcare and very serious about faith-health partnerships. Our major issue tonight that we are really deciding to be is a community partner in developing this communication to our neighborhood and hopefully with the city.
We need people to be able to find doctors, to find medical care, to be able to afford that care, and to be able to know where they can get it. We need to make sure that hospitals that are providing care to low-income and vulnerable communities, which I understand is called charity care, are protected.
Lutheran Healthcare is the major employer in Sunset Park. Instability in Lutheran Healthcare not only means that lots of people are not going to get services, it also means that a lot of people are not going to have jobs.
I don't advocate as a politician, but as a person in the community who speaks on behalf of the poor, because I think health care is a right to life. This is a right to life issue.
And we've heard a phrase used which is called medical home, which are clinics. We have a lot of them in this community. We want them to expand and to improve their care. They will be the key places that a lot of the people we've spoken about can go to get quality care.
If those clinics are closed down, it would hurt these people very much. I hope that those in authority recognize the human face to these insurance questions.
Well, Pope Benedict also addressed some tough topics in a book set for publication later this month. We get details from Rome Reports.
After sitting down with Benedict XVI in a week-long one-on-one interview, Peter Seewald is coming out with a new book about his discussions with the Pope. The two have held similar meetings before Benedict became Pope, which later became the bestsellers Salt of the Earth and God in the World. In his new book, Light of the World, the Pope, the Church, and the Signs of the Times, Seewald took the opportunity to put forth hard-hitting questions about sex abuse, a possible cover-up in the Church, and whether Benedict had ever considered resigning. The interview also covers the topics of celibacy, women priests, same-sex relationships, and if the Pope can really speak for Jesus Christ. The book will be released on November 24th in 8 languages with a launch site at the Vatican. According to Seewald, this book marks the first personal interview a pope has done in the history of the Church.
Well, from Baltimore, just 3 days after the World Series ended, a group of nuns hit a home run courtesy of a rare Honus Wagner baseball card. The card sold at auction yesterday for close to $263,000. It's one of only 50 known to exist. The card was left to the School Sisters of Notre Dame by one of the nuns' brothers who died earlier this year. And finally, it's just a bit smaller and a little brighter, too. Brooklyn's diocesan newspaper, The Tablet, debuts in a new full-color edition this weekend. The paper's editor, Ed Wilkinson, stopped by earlier today to talk about it. Well, Ed, thanks for being here. Tell us just a little bit about the tablet and the changes that have taken place.
Oh, it's been a very busy week for us, Matt, because we've changed our printers, and now we're being printed on the presses of the New York Daily News, which wow. It's a state-of-the-art press, which we were really impressed with, and it has changed the tablet a little bit. For instance, I can show you the page itself is a little bit smaller than it usually is. You know? So it gives us less space to work with. And I've told the writers that they have to write a little bit more tightly.
Right.
And if they don't cut it, I'll cut it for them. Yeah. So it's a little bit smaller to conform to the size of the Daily News, but it gives us full color throughout the paper. Okay. So all the photos that used to be in black and white, you're now going to see in color.
Big color photos, color ads all the way through.
Color ads, color photos through the whole paper. We're really excited because it's going to enable us to do a lot of new things.
Well, very good. Now, this is printed at the Daily News, you said, in Secaucus in New Jersey, right?
Well, it's in Jersey City.
Jersey
It's
City,
right next door. It's in Jersey City, and it's right behind the Statue of Liberty. And it's, like I say, it's a state-of-the-art plant, and we're really happy and looking forward to this association with them.
Absolutely. Well, we'll look forward to that and look forward to seeing a full-color tablet each week in the parishes. Thanks, Ed. We
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me in.
Well, stay tuned. There's much more current straight ahead. Just ahead, honoring America's veterans. We'll go into the deep.
It's more difficult today to understand what the military is about, since the conflicts that we are in now are not so clear-cut to most people.
Welcome back. Well, according to the U.S. Census, there are nearly 22 million veterans in the United States, men and women who serve this country often at great risk. They cannot be forgotten, and this coming Thursday, Veterans Day, helps ensure that they will not be. Remembering America's veterans is something that Francesca talked about with Bishop DiMarzio recently, and tonight we go into the deep to explore that and more.
Bishop DiMarzio, thanks again for joining us on Current.
Always good to be here.
It's a pleasure to see you. Veterans Day, what are your thoughts about Veterans Day and the contributions that American veterans have made?
Well, clearly it's a historic tradition in our country to recognize the sacrifices of our veterans, some of whom paid the ultimate price, others who were sacrificed to defend our country. And I think it's more difficult today to understand what the military is about, since the conflicts that we are in now are not so clear-cut to most people. Why are we doing this? Should we be there? Whereas in the Second World War and the Korean War, it seemed a lot clearer. Vietnam probably put some doubt in people's mind. But I think today when we're talking about Afghanistan and Iraq, people wonder. And I think that's taken away from some of the honor that we must give the veterans for what they do.
So we can certainly remember the folks that are currently serving and that have just recently served as well. We know that there's a shortage of priests, and one of the ripple effects of that is that there's a shortage of military chaplains as well. What can be said or done about that?
Well, clearly there is a shortage in the military, and any priest, for example, in our diocese that has expressed a desire to serve in the military, have been happy to let them be part of it. We're also participating in a program which is a joint program with the military archdiocese. The archdiocese cannot ordain priests for themselves, but they have to accept priests from other dioceses on loan for a particular period of time, since it would be impossible for them to guarantee someone staying in the service, because that's basically what they supply is military chaplains. So we're in a program where a seminarian is in a kind of a joint sponsorship, where they can come and study with us, giving us at least 5 years of service, and then they will be released to the military, and then someday they could come back to the diocese. So that's a new program in the last 10 years that's been developed, and we're participating in it as a diocese. And as I say, anyone who does have a desire to serve either in a reserve capacity or full-time, we're very happy to be able to help them help the military is what it's about.
Right. Yeah, to work with on that endeavor. And along those lines, what are some of the resources that the Catholic Church in the Diocese of Brooklyn offers to veterans?
Well, we do have Catholic War Veterans. It's a private organization, but they are really a part of it. I know we have programs in Catholic Charities that are designed to help veterans. So there is some support services available. Thank God New York City, I think, has a lot of resources, some private, some public, for veterans. So it is a good situation for most people. At least if they need help, they know they can find it somewhere.
Sure. And earlier you were speaking a little bit about World War II, the Korean War, some of these other wars, in history. Do you have any personal experiences with people you've worked with that either from then or from now, the people who have served?
Well, the Second World War, I was just a baby. But the Korean War, I remember very well. My godfather was serving and, writing letters to him. He would send us, some trinkets, a jacket or so. So it became alive, and then television was starting then pretty good, and you would see the conflicts. So it was something you would not forget, and it was a personal involvement, through someone that was close to us.
And certainly you can always pray for folks
Sure,
that are
right,
serving
exactly.
abroad, obviously, because you can never have too many of those. Bishop DiMarzio, on Veterans Day, thank you so much for joining us.
Okay.
And we'll have much more on Veterans Day next week. But in the meantime, stay with us. There's much more current still to come. When we return, thousands visit it every day. And this weekend, the Pope will join them. Finally tonight, once again, Pope Benedict is packing his bags and he's about to hit the road. He leaves tomorrow for Spain, and he begins his journey where countless pilgrims bring theirs to an end. It's the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela, and it's the burial site of St. James. It's a destination for thousands of the faithful who annually walk the famous Way of St. James, a long and arduous trip made largely on foot that can take weeks and last hundreds of miles. But as we hear from Rome Reports, for many, the final stop makes it all worthwhile.
This impressive cathedral marks the end of a long pilgrimage called the Camino de Santiago. Spanning primarily throughout Spain, these yellow arrows point the way for pilgrims to reach their goal, the tomb of St. James. Thousands of pilgrims line up every day in front of the large cathedral after walking by foot to embrace the statue of St. James and pray at his tomb.
The cathedral, once one enters, helps us to maintain an air of privacy. The pilgrim arrives tired with blistered feet, aching pains, often exhausted. And once they arrive, they experience unspeakable joy, an indescribable joy. It is normal for the pilgrims coming here to experience a transformation.
Obradoiro Square is a doorway to this cathedral. In the main facade of this imposing Romanesque cathedral stands the Holy Door with the so-called Portico de la Gloria. This is a central door open only during holy years, when the Feast of St. James falls on Sunday, July 25th.
Going up the steps of Obradoiro, the pilgrim finds this magnificent portico, which is a catechism in stone, carved by Master Matteo and his team in the 12th century. This also represents the glory.
Going through the Holy Door is much more than just entering a cathedral. It is also part of the tradition of receiving a plenary indulgence during the Holy Year. Going through the Holy Door, saying a prayer and confessing helps to start anew.
It is normal, therefore, that true miracles of St. James are inner miracles. People who have gone for many years without coming to confession. Youth since their first communion have abandoned the sacraments. Couples who are living under difficult circumstances, and each doing their part, having the experience to get in the way.
Each day, thousands of pilgrims visit the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela. Once inside, their attention is drawn to the striking small size of the cathedral's floor. The church can hold up to 2,000 people and is always teeming with pilgrims. Behind the altar is a statue of St. James, where the pilgrims line up to embrace him. To get to the heart of the cathedral, one has to descend narrow stairs, and there they will find the remains of St. James, patron saint of Spain.
The most important part of the cathedral is not the Romanesque style, but the heart of the church. We maintain the remains of St. James in that little silver urn from the 18th century. In a way, it is for us the center, the heart of the cathedral.
In addition to being a masterpiece of Romanesque art, the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela is the last stop of a pilgrimage that still continues to attract thousands of people. 20 centuries after the arrival of the apostle to Spain.
La catedral es un punto.
The cathedral is an endpoint of pilgrimage, but sometimes we have to recognize that the end is a beginning point because it marks a transformation in life.
A road, a cathedral, and a life-changing city. The tomb of St. James resides in a true work of art that is the cathedral.
And you can follow the Pope's trip this weekend right here on NET, both Saturday and Sunday, beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, that is it for tonight. Remember, we're always online over at currentsny.net. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. And if you have a story idea, just drop us a line at currentsny.net. Until next time, I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night and a great weekend.